Today we're talking about the month of May. This month brings big shifts and energies that will bring its influence over the next year and a half. You may have heard about Rahu and Ketu changing signs, or Jupiter entering into Gemini, and this is all true. And knowing the houses activated by these transits in your natal chart can guide you towards growth and success. But did you know there is also a hidden layer to explore? And it's been in your chart this whole time. I use this technique to uncover deep insights for overall transit charts and the natal chart. It reveals a hidden layer of motivation and dynamic force. And once you look at a chart this way, you won't be able to unsee it. I'm going to break it all down for you. These are the major transits for May 2025 using Sidereal Vedic Astrology. By the way, I'm Christina, and I use Sidereal Vedic Astrology to follow the stars and write about it on my blog at lunarpersuasion.com. I also create resources like this Vedic Astrology chart journal and the Transit in the Sky report, where you can follow all the transits using Sidereal Astrology. So if you're interested, I'll leave a link down in the description. All right, guys, so I've got my notes here, and we're going to look at the 7th of May when Mercury goes into Aries. So this is going to be a quick transit. It's only a couple of weeks. Mercury is really speeding through now that it's in this direct motion. And so this is going to be new ideas, communications, and messages that are going to come through over the next few weeks. And the thinking mind is in action mode. It's in an action-oriented mode. That's because Aries is ruled by Mars. Mars is the planet of action and courage. It's a fire energy. And there is some caution here when we mix this air and fire. It can really stoke the fire. And so be careful not to get overstimulated or even too opinionated in your communications. All right, then we have the full moon in Libra on the 11th, and this is really reflecting on relationships and how your expectations are met. You know, what are you valuing? What do you value in a relationship, and what do you expect from that relationship to give back to you? Are you feeling appreciated? And it's a time to really ask the question, do you feel valued, or do you feel taken advantage of? And if so, how can you adjust your expectations so that you don't have so much disappointment from others? Because we do tend to put a lot of feelings into expectations from others, especially in close and committed relationships. So this full moon in Libra on the 11th will be a time to reflect on that. Now on the 15th, we have some big shifts. We've got three major things happening right in the middle of the month. We have Moon transiting into Sagittarius, which is pretty normal. He does that every month. But on the same day, Jupiter is going to transit into Gemini. So Jupiter's been in Taurus for the last year or so and has been with Uranus. And now he's going to enter into Gemini and will oppose Sagittarius. So we've got this moon in Jupiter being opposed by Jupiter. This is really, really good energy, very expansive and bringing in abundance and hope and optimism. And it's just a good overall blessing to have. And so wherever Sagittarius and Gemini are in your chart, this axis is going to be receiving some of this good benefic energy and blessings from Jupiter and the moon. And also on the same day, Sun enters into Taurus. So Jupiter is leaving Taurus and Sun is moving in. So now it's still going to be bringing that focus in on where we find stability, where we bring in our resources. And so we want to think about a few things with these three big shifts. So first of all, with the moon opposite Jupiter, this is bringing a moment of reflection on our beliefs and the kind of information that we take in. So that ultimately forms our perspective. So if you think about the 3 and 9 axis, which is the original axis of Gemini and Sagittarius, this is that hidden layer. So wherever Gemini and Sagittarius is in your chart, there's this hidden layer of the 3-9 axis which is this dynamic of taking in information, processing it, and creating our perspectives around it. And so this is a good time to think about what ideas are forming your perspective. Are you open-minded to accept new ways of thinking? Or are you fixated on certain ways of thinking and refuse any new information? This is the time to think about that. So, with Jupiter entering in that sign of Gemini, which is our ideas and our intellect and communications. So we also want to think about Sun entering into Taurus with Uranus. This is bringing light to our finances and the things that bring security. Also a focus on our comfort zone. So Taurus is the natural second house. So whenever a planet transits through Taurus, especially the sun, because it really illuminates that area of life, and it's activating the hidden layer of the second and eighth house axis. And this is our axis of attachments, physical attachments and emotional attachments. And the dynamic force that's really taking place here is you're bringing in new resources, you're attaching value to things that you've acquired, or you're sitting in your comfort zone where it's comfortable. And the eighth house is opposite of that, where there's this fear of losing all of that comfort, fear of losing that attachment to the things that you have now given value to. And so really the lesson of the second and eighth house axis, or whenever something transits Taurus or Scorpio, is to find that balance, right? The oppositions are always about finding a balance between the two extremes on the spectrum. And so this is a time to think about what you're giving value to, what is giving value in your life, and then making sure that you're not creating emotional attachments to it, because that ultimately leads to suffering. I mean, of course, you can feel emotionally attached to it. We're only humans, but just being mindfully aware of it will help you in the long run, because not everything is forever, right? And so if and when you lose that thing, it can be really painful. And so that's what the second and eighth house axis represents, is this force, this dynamic force of attachment between the physical and the emotional parts of our lives. So with Sun entering in this is about a 30-day transit, right? Where the Sun moves about 1 degree every day, and will go through Taurus and is joined Uranus. Now Uranus is like a higher vibration of Mercury. It is one of the outer planets, and it's not studied in the natal charts, but is considered to have more of a global and generational effect. And it can be themes of rebellion, sudden breakthroughs, innovation, things like that. So those will all be themes that are lit up during this time. Now, let me just see here. Oh, yes. And then with Sun moving into Taurus, there will be this third aspect from the transiting Saturn. So Saturn's in Pisces, and Saturn casts its special aspect 3 places away. So it's going to be casting its influence for the entirety of Sun being in Taurus. And this is just going to add an extra layer of responsibility, practicality. And Saturn's going to demand effort and courage in this area, wherever Taurus is in your chart. So that is something to think about. All right, then on the 23rd, about a week later, we have Mercury entering into Taurus. So he just flew through Aries, very quick transit. And so we're bringing our communication and skills that will be shaping up and settling into habits and ways of thinking. It's because Taurus is, like we were saying, that attachment, that comfort zone. But Taurus is a fixed sign. So it's where we hold on to things, we acquire it, we hold on, and we have those ideas from Aries coming into Taurus. And so this is where we are holding on to those ideas, and they start to become habits. They start to become the ways of thinking, and we can get attached to them. That's what's going on here. So be careful not to get too attached with this Sun Mercury energy going on, especially with Uranus there wanting to just really amplify things. All right, then to really bring everything to a peak on the 26th of May, we have a new moon in Taurus. So this is when the moon and the sun join together and they form a new 28-day lunar cycle. And so this lunar cycle is where the moon is exalted in the sign of Taurus. So our mind has this strength and capacity to deal with change, right? So if we think about the Taurus Scorpio axis, Taurus is about stability and comfort, and Scorpio is where that sudden change and transformation happens. It's where we lose something quickly. It's where we have fears and emotional attachments for those sorts of things. And so when moon is in Taurus, it's exalted and it's given us that capacity to handle change. And because this is a new moon and the new moon is going to be waxing or growing in its light over the next 2 weeks as it approaches the full moon, this will be an increase of our capacity to handle change. Okay, so this will be a really productive 2 weeks if you're utilizing this energy, especially wherever Taurus is in your chart. So we're going to work on building up our resources and tools that allow us to maintain that peace of mind throughout the days, throughout the week and the month. So this is what this cycle is bringing us. And like I said, it activates this second and eighth house layer, the hidden layer of our physical and emotional attachments, where we learn to save and to hold on to things that bring value into our lives, but we don't want to form those emotional attachments around them because that leads to feelings of suffering, disappointment, and loss. All right, so on the 29th of May, we have a really big shift. So this is Rahu and Ketu shifting into a brand new sign. And just to clarify, I used the true node calculation for Rahu Ketu, and this is where it's accurately in the sky, versus some astrologers use a mean node or an average node mode, and it is matched up more with the movements of the zodiac, but it's not the actual placement. So you can use either one, and it gives different insights based on which one you're using. It just gives about more than a few days, about several days difference. But I have found through my studies that the true node really works for me. And so this is going to be a huge karmic shift and a new cycle that's going to unfold over the next 18 and a half months. So Rahu and Ketu take 18 and a half months to move in reverse, right? They're always in a retrograde motion, moving backwards through the zodiac. And this is why it's so karmic, right? This is a lot about going back into an area of our life to rework things, to revisit them. And so Rahu's going to go into Aquarius and Ketu's going to enter into Leo. Now, this is activating the axis of truth and validation, because Leo is the natural 5th house and Aquarius is the natural 11th house. And so the 5th house is where the sun rules. It's the place where we have creativity and our self-expression, our truthful identity. And its opposite, Aquarius, which can be looked at as the mainstream society, where we express ourselves from the 5th house, the sun, right? And we bounce that back to see if that's being accepted by others. Is that something that will be accepted? Otherwise, we can have that feeling of not being validated and maybe not want to express ourselves or continue to express ourselves that way in a public sense. And so this is the 511 axis of truth and validation, and this is the hidden layer in your chart. So wherever Leo and Aquarius are in your chart will be this axis of validation. So think about that. Go look at your chart and see where Leo and Aquarius is, and think about the house that it is for you, and the idea or theme of truth and validation. So that's looking at that hidden layer. So with Rahu and Aquarius, Rahu wants to explore the expectations of society and wants to look for ways to exhibit power in the collective. Rahu is all about seeking worldly power, and it is an insatiable force. It can never be satisfied. So where you want to, pursue where Rahu is in your natal chart, it's where you're inexperienced. It's what you have come into this lifetime to achieve, is the Rahu house, the Rahu sign. And at the same time, it is such a powerful force that there's this energy of obsession and just really not being able to be satisfied. So you always have to keep that in mind when pursuing the Rahu in your chart. And it's just like anything, finding that balance, right? Never want to be in the extreme side of things. So then we look at Ketu going into Leo. This untaps lifetimes of knowledge and mastery to reveal your soul's truthful expression. So this is where we also detach from the need to be accepted from others. Ketu is a very spiritual side of the axis, whereas Rahu is worldly and more about the physical side of things. Ketu wants to detach from that. It's kind of like been there, done that. Don't want to deal with all of that heavy burden of the physical attachments, and it wants to detach and pursue a more spiritual side of things. And Ketu represents that part of your life where you have achieved mastery. And they say in Vedic astrology that this is where you have spent lifetimes mastering this thing. So look at wherever Ketu is in your chart. This is going to show you where you are kind of a master of. And it's also very similar to that comfort zone, right? Because you kind of already know what you're doing there, versus Rahu is uncharted territory. So I will be doing a breakout video on this Rahu Ketu transit for all signs. And right now I do have a blog out on my website for the Rahu axis that's being activated based on your ascendant. So be sure to check that out at lunarpersuasion.com. All right, now let's end the month on May 31st. It's going to bring Venus into Aries. So we've had all this energy going through Aries into Taurus, and now we have Venus here. It just left Pisces where it was exalted. And so Venus in Aries is really bringing the focus of self-love. There is this desire to bring beauty and pleasure into our life, and it's activating the hidden layer of the 1-7 axis. I call this the mirror axis, right? The first house of self, which is the natural house of Aries, and the 7th house of relationships, spouse, marriage, which is naturally Libra, which is ruled by Venus. And so when we have Venus in Aries, it's bringing that attention and desire for beauty and comfort and peace into our lives. And it can actually make us a little more sensitive to other people's behavior, because we get that feeling that maybe we aren't feeling accepted, or we aren't feeling not accepted, but appreciated as much as we should be based on our actions, right? Aries is actions ruled by Mars. So this is bringing things of appreciation to play, and we start to look at how we feel valued and appreciated. Expectations from others can increase, which can ultimately lead to disappointment if they don't live up to those expectations. So use this time for self-care, and don't expect others to provide that for you. This is just going to save you some heartache. And it's just, focus on that self-care. Start a new health routine, a new workout routine. Go get your hair cut. Go get your nails done. Go, try on some new clothes. Whatever it is that makes you feel good about your physical body, focus on that. And that'll be, what the universe is supporting at this time, what these transits are supporting. So if you are still here, thank you so much. Feel free to say hey in the comments and let me know, what is your ascendant sign and what transit are you resonating with the most this month? If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up. Just a reminder, I do break these transits down for your ascendant on my blog. So lunarpersuasion.com. Be sure to sign up if you want to get the weekly newsletter, where I also will share with you each week the transits of the moon and any other big shifts that are going on so that you can just stay informed and plan accordingly. So thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in the next one.